Lately, since October came around and the skies have been getting darker, the leaves have been changing colors, and the temperature has been dropping, this is kind of the year that we all take to the horror media side of things. We watch our favorite scary movies, we reread our favorite scary books, and I've just been on the prowl for different horror comics that I can find, and I gotta say there are a lot of great horror things when it comes to comic books and graphic novels, and I've found just an entire slew of them. Now, while I've really been enjoying things like Creepshow and Tales from the Crypt, and just kind of more horror bite-sized chunks of media, I recently found this book called The Ice Cream Man. Now, I'm a man who enjoys ice cream, alright? You could say that I used to have a bit of an unhealthy connection with it. I used to probably eat a McFlurry every single day. I'm no longer doing this. But when I seen the cover of this thing, I was wondering, what could this actually possibly be about? Is this really a whole saga about the journey of an ice cream man? About all the horrible things he had to do to get his truck? Something crazy and something kind of weird like this. Well, this book actually turned out to be surprisingly good. It's actually got a bunch of different stories in it, and each one is set after a different flavor of pain, of sorrow, of trifling anguish. And it really just lent itself to be a great read, something that I can really recommend you guys. And I'd just like to show you one of these stories while the spooky season is intact. And the first flavor of today is Raspberry Surprise. And it all begins in this nice, quaint little town. You see all these children lined up at this ice cream truck, and you see this man just kind of singing to himself. He obviously loves his job, and people are coming one by one to eat this ice cream. Everybody seems to know his name. He is around in basically every one of these stories, and I'm not exactly sure by the end of it what his role in all of this is. If you get to the end, you'll see something very interesting happen, but we're not there yet. But as you see this man sing in his ice cream truck, this woman walks up and she says, "Hi, Rick," and he points his hat at her a good day. He says, "Hello, Sharon, and looky here, is that little Miss Penny Peterson I see? Golly, you're getting big. What flavor will it be, sweetie?" And while she's very undecided on the flavor, she says, "Vanilla." And he says, "In a jiffy." He comes back with this ice cream, and they go on walking home. And suddenly, it's just this one little boy and this ice cream man left over, and he says, "Who do we have next?" And you see this small ginger kid, and he also says hello. He looks very chipper. He looks like he's having a great day. And this ice cream man, Rick, says, "Say, where's your mom and dad?" And he says, "I'm a big boy." And this ice cream man, Rick, seems to take all this in stride. He says, "A man of self-possession. I can certainly appreciate that." And he runs to the back, and he grabs 2 scoops of chocolate ice cream, and this kid is satisfied. He says, "Lickety-split, fast as can be. You get home safe, alright?" And with the next coming pages, you see this boy walking home, alright? He's whistling to himself. He's enjoying his nice ice cream. And in all these description text boxes, you're hearing all about this weird little spider. It says, "The Brazilian wandering spider is one of the most dangerous, deadly spiders recognized by the World Spider Catalog. In fact, in 2010, the Guinness Book of World Records granted this charming arachnid an official true blue title, World's Most Venomous Spider." Most venomous? Ain't that something? This awesome distinction can be credited to a concentrated neurotoxin that the spider releases upon biting, PHTX3 to be exact, which is in high doses induces all manner of unpleasantness, including but not limited to loss of muscle control, strange contortions, painful inflammation, crippling instant paralysis, and in some cases, priapism, or for the layperson, an absolutely lethal and unprovoked never-ending erection. And after all this, you see this kid walking up to the doorstep. He pulls something out of his pocket, and it's actually a clothesline pin. He sets it on his nose, and from here you basically know that something is about to go absolutely, terribly, and undefinitively wrong. As he's clipping these on, he opens up the door, and he says, "Hi, Rupert," and you get a glimpse of this house inside. It's covered in trash, there's mail everywhere, there's no lights on, and this boy is now holding this giant spider in his hand, and he says, "I'm home." He goes on, he walks through his house, he's trying to kick it, trying to get a little bit relaxed, and he's saying, "Mom, Dad, I'm home." And as he's walking through this dilapidated house, who knows what has gone on in here, and he begins to walk into the kitchen. He looks to a spider, and he says, "They've been so quiet lately, Roop. It's like they live in the kitchen. Boy, am I ever hungry." And as he opens this door, you see the table in front of him, and it's both of his parents in instant paralysis. It looks like they've been dead for weeks at a time. Their bodies are starting to rot away, and they're both in just these total anguish positions that show you that something very terrible went on, and that this was not a quick and easy death. And as Rupert just kind of goes on, he just kind of ignores this. I don't know if this child hasn't really come to the terms with death yet, if he just doesn't understand, but he says, "Geez, I guess I'll just make myself a snack." And that is the end of the scene. A very brutal introduction to this comic book, and something that I found extremely interesting. I mean, Halloween, something that's called the Ice Cream Man. I honestly just had no idea what to even expect. We are now in a police station precinct, and these people are kind of taking calls, trying to figure out what's going on. This is Detective Jello Juan. Her colleagues call her 5V, in reference to the fact that her first name, Chinese for Most Beautiful Willow, contains all 5 vowels of the English alphabet. For the sake of expedience, let's say this. Like most people in their 30s, she's got a job for which she can summon only a minimum amount of passion or interest, but she does it, day in and day out. And what else is there to do? And you see this lady and her partner sitting at this desk, and there's this older woman at the desk kind of yelling at him. She keeps hearing about this monster out in the woods, and she claims that she's actually seen that it ripped the spine out of her cat. There's no flesh, there's no muscle, no tendons, no anything. It's just the skeleton of a cat, and they kind of just don't really know what to do about this. But she says, are you listening to me? These people need to do something. And these two cops just kind of look at each other, and one of them pulls up this drawing, and it is of a man that is similar to looking like Catmandu. Have you ever seen the Guinness World Records guy who turned himself into a giant cat with cheetah print tattoos? I think he actually got a spinal implant to make his tail move. He got his cheeks puffed up and whisker implants put in, and that's almost exactly what it looks like. And this lady's beginning to storm off, and she just tells me, no, this isn't just about my cat. It's about the children of the town. Who knows where this monster could possibly go next? And she storms out of the door, she slams it, and the man in the room next to 5E says, Jesus almighty, lady. And the other one just says, Christ, and she's looking down with anguish in her face. And they head out to the office to show a couple people of this, and a couple of them just want to know, who gives their cat a different last name than them? And they're all just kind of joking around about this cat sketch. Suddenly the big man of the entire precinct opens his door and he says, my office, please. And they both head in, and he has some words to say. He says Tom and Henrietta McAllister, both reported MIA by their respective employers about 10 days now. No vacation requests, no PTO filled, they just stopped coming in. I need you to make a house call. And as these two partners are listening to him, they're trying to make bets on what's going on. Could it be tax evasion? Could it be a heroin overdose? And the next one recommends that maybe they're just down in Mexico trying to dodge the IRS. And the head of the precinct doesn't really care. He just says, fuck it if I know. Maybe they're dead. And the cherry on the sundae, they've got a kid. And suddenly you see Rupert's picture sitting there on the table. Well, now we're out in the woods. Rupert is just kind of hanging out around here. He's actually poking this dead animal with a stick, until suddenly you hear a crackling off in the distance. And suddenly, Rick, the ice cream man, is here. He's walking out. His clothes are completely tattered off his body, and I thought this was just super strange. I was like, this man is an ice cream man? Is this man like part werewolf? What exactly is his place in the story? And I think as you get through this whole book, I do recommend getting it yourself to get all the way to the end, where it does kind of explain that something is not quite right with this man. He's almost like an interdimensional being of terror, of pain, just bringing this town complete and utter chaos and horror and respect. And he's just a very interesting character, but he's completely out of breath. He's leaning up against a tree, and he says, that was unpleasant. And Rupert looks at him, and he points his stick, and he says, you're the ice cream man. And Rick doesn't really notice this, alright? He looks at his body, and he says, huh, looks like I am. Say, what you got there? And Rupert just holds it up, and he's like, it's a stick, very obviously, man. I know that you can see this, and I don't know why you're questioning me about this. You can very clearly see that it is just a stick, my friend. And the ice cream man goes, and he snaps his fingers, and he says, you want to see something neat? And what do you know? 2 scoops of chocolate ice cream appear in Rupert's hand. Chocolate, 2 scoops, lickety-split, just like that. And Rupert is amazed. He takes a lick, and Rick just says, you know, kid, you shouldn't be walking around these woods on your own. It isn't safe. Time to be getting home to your parents, don't you think? And Rupert just kind of looks down in sadness, and he says, crud. It's apparent that he does know that something is wrong. He may not be dealing with it, but when your parents are sitting in a dining room, completely paralyzed, flesh rotting off their bones, it's hard to ignore something like that. And something like 2 scoops of double chocolate ice cream, it just probably ain't gonna do it. Probably isn't gonna cut that emotional tear. But cut to another panel, and we're seeing this precinct car speeding down the road, and we get a nice little dialogue once again. It says, here's a secret about life, which I tell you for free. We are all being devoured by bugs. Slowly but surely, our little internal insects, boredom, loneliness, regret, etc., are eating us whole, nibbling away from us from the inside out. The process only lasts as long as you're alive. And as 5V is looking over at her partner, they're pulling up to this house, she sees these thoughts coming out of his head. It says, I've got cockroaches crawling over my brain, and they're telling me to cheat on my wife. There's a bunch of random instances in this book where this happens, where people look at each other and they kind of hear the deepest, darkest thoughts in their head, and it makes for a very interesting fact. There's some stories in this that'll blow your mind. There's some of them that aren't too dark and are actually kind of interesting that maybe I just read wrong, but they didn't seem quite sad. But on the other hand, I don't know. But anyways, 5E looks at her partner after seeing this. She can't tell if she's heard this out in the open, if this man's really just said this, or if she's just hearing things in her head. And this man looks at 5E. He says, I said, did you read that memo about the changes to positions? And 5E just says, I didn't get the chance. Is that the place? 10-4, Chateau McAllister. And they both get out of the car, and as they're doing this, they see that it is ajar. So they just open it and they walk in, and they see what we seen just previously, this entire dilapidated house. Trash scattered everywhere, food on plates, dishes stacked up to the fucking ceiling. It's a lot to take in. And suddenly the TV turns on, and you're seeing Rick the Ice Cream Man once again. He is an incredibly reoccurring character in this, but he says, so find my truck and get yourself a treat. From butterscotch to bubblegum, sour balls and cherry blasters, lickety split, something sweet for everybody, something sweet for the bugs to eat. And it seems like maybe this guy's bringing more than just ice cream to this house. But as 5E's partner walks into the kitchen, he says, holy fucking shit, 5E, come in here. And they both see these two dead bodies at the table, and they don't know what's going on. They're questioning it. They don't really know how to handle this, and the smell of this room is just getting to them. They both pull their hands above their noses, and they take a gander at the bodies. I don't know what I'm looking at. We should call ow! And suddenly 5E's partner is bitten by Rupert, the spider, the big boy's favorite pet. And he holds it in his hand down below him, and he says, and almost instantly, he starts to foam at the mouth, and he drops at the ground, and 5E doesn't know what to do. She's just trying to pump his heart, she's trying to wake him up. She has no idea what kind of spider this was or how any of this happened, and suddenly, the big boy walks into the room, and he says he just doesn't like adults. Apparently, the spider only bites adults, and 5E just walks up to him, and she says, kid, I don't know what's going on here, but we need to get my friend some help. He's very sick. And as this big boy starts to grab his head and pull his hair, and he says, my parents got sick too. Then they got all stiffed up and missed macaroni Tuesday. It's okay, we'll figure this out. I just need you to put down the spider. And he says, no, you're not taking him. And he bolts out the door. 5E begins to chase him. And once again, this big boy ends up just running into the forest. This place where Rick the Ice Cream Man told him specifically not to go. And as 5E is chasing him, she sees this kid's shoe on the ground and she picks it up. And she suddenly hears out in the distance a calling for help. And as she's looking deep into the forest, she sees this creature, the one that they actually drew up when this old lady was talking to them, and it's very obviously Rick the Ice Cream Man, alright? He's still got the shorts on, and he's holding this kid by the throat, and he looks like he's about to take a slash, and 5E pulls a gun on him. She says, put him down, and as this creature is looking at her, he throws this child right into her chest, and they're both knocked on the ground. And as this thing is kind of laughing, it's about to attack them, tear them into shreds. It's about to feast on the prey that it's worked so hard to eat. It roars in astonishment and hunger, and suddenly you see Rupert the spider fall down from the tree and onto its back, and it bites him. And suddenly this monster's eyes just flash open. He rips the spider off and he runs away. He isn't paralyzed instantly. I don't know if it's because of his body mass or something. Maybe he's just a little bit too big for this venom, or maybe the paranormal molecules in its body are deflective or something. But he just runs away, alright? He runs away screaming. And this boy and 5E are relieved. She grabs him and she says, what's your name, kid? And the kid just says, Brian. Alright, this is another instance where a character has my name, and I found that very awesome. Except I don't think I'd leave my parents dead in the kitchen just because I like a spider. But you know, I've never been in that situation, so how could I possibly tell? But 5E looks at him and she says, fuck you, Brian. This kid has caused so much havoc in this town by just not coming out with it, by just telling his friends or anybody that his parents have been brutally murdered by a spider. And suddenly the cops and ambulances all show up, and all these cops are just talking. He's been raising himself for almost 2 weeks by the looks of it. Diet of cookies and ice cream. We've got official cause of death for the parents and Briggs down at the Recadism, which I'm guessing is just kind of a science lab for spiders. Maybe they research toxic venoms or some sort, but we're not questioning this right now. Anyways, 5E says a spider bite. What's gonna happen to the kid? My guess, the foster system. And suddenly this lady points at him. She doesn't want to hear this, and she says, hey, you got that spider bagged? I want to take it back to the lab. And suddenly the cops around her are looking very astonished, alright? Their faces go wide and agape. And he says, didn't anybody tell you? Spider's still MIA. And that is basically the end of the story, alright? It shows the spider on the sidewalk and it says chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, banana, cookies and cream, rocky road and caramel, raspberry surprise. There's a flavor for everybody's suffering. And make no mistake, everybody is suffering. And suddenly you see Rick the Ice Cream Man coming up and he picks up the spider and he says, well, hello, little buggy. And he snaps his fingers and it turns itself into a vanilla ice cream cone. And he says, lickety split. And with this last panel, you're seeing his dark green eyes, the same eyes that this monster had, and teeth that are basically ready to tear into anybody that comes across his path. And you see the ice cream truck barreling down the road. Now, that is the end of the first story of the Ice Cream Man. Like I said, I'd highly recommend this. There's some really good ones in here. There's one that involves hell and the death of somebody, and it's about this man coming back to see his kid. He actually bolted when this kid was 7 years old, and he's talking to one of this child's friends, saying how much he regrets leaving and how much he misses his child and how he wish he could just hug him one more time. And the whole story gets very dark and very sad, and I think it's one of the better ones in here, so I think I will end up covering that next. But I just wanted to show you guys the power of the Ice Cream Man. But overall, I think I'd have to give this book a 7 out of 10. I don't think it's like the greatest thing I've ever read, but it's just such a fun read. I think there's a lot of really good stories in here, some that are duds, but the ones that are good are extremely good. There's one in here that actually deals with these two heroin addicts. They run out of heroin, and this boyfriend is basically couch locked, and this girl goes on this rampage throughout town trying to get him one last high before they clean up their act. And it was just such a compelling story. It's another one that I'm definitely gonna have to cover out of this. But yes, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you had a lot of fun with me. And if you did, I hope you pick this book up for yourself and support these artists. I think they truly deserve it, and I cannot wait to get the next edition of this. I think this is very interesting, especially if you're into Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt, any of these like kind of 3 short story deals, or however many there is, but a good read nonetheless. So if you did enjoy it, please comment down below what you thought of it, what you'd like me to read next possibly, or just have a nice little chat with me down below. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. There's been a few of you in the comments that have been so cool checking out all my videos, sharing it with your friends, and I think that is absolutely dope, and I cannot thank you enough, alright? That actually helps this channel out a ton. We've had a few videos go really good, and a few of them go duds, but I think they're all at least an enjoyable watch, so hopefully any of you newcomers that are here, you go check those out. And I will be back with another story shortly. Thank you everybody so much for watching, and have yourself a fantastic day. Read The Ice Cream Man, but don't buy ice cream from him.